Hello and welcome back to 100% Real with Ruby. Today we have Matt Bolton back, who owns that amazing kitchen in Bali and pretty much gets to see exactly what it's like when people come to them with a whole list of, I guess, red flags when it comes to why they're not achieving the body they want with their current habits through food, through lifestyle. And I guess we even just had a conversation just then on how real stress can be in holding someone back, because the thing is, if you're stressed out, it's going to impact the way that you approach food, the way that you digest food, the way that you then use that food, the way that you think about food. You probably, like, when your stress is that high, you probably won't even remember when you accidentally slipped a handful of crisps into your mouth. Like, you're more likely to sabotage on your goals when you are stressed out. And Matt was telling me about someone that came to him and said that she saw someone about her stress, and this person told her it was all in the hips, and they worked through trauma therapy, and who knows whether it's voodoo magic, but it's very proven in the literature that what you truly believe is kind of what we expect to happen, thus it will happen that way. So whether she really believed that doing this stuff will release her stress from her hips, it helped her regardless, and she's never had those same issues again. And the reason I really want to talk about this is because when clients come to me and ask me, so what's this going to do? Or I change something and they want to know the specifics for why, I really try not to tell them what it is that I'm expecting or what they should expect, because that's just going to manifest it when maybe something else would have happened. And it's best to trial it out. It's best to see it, I guess, organically happen versus, like actually man-made through your own construct of thoughts, because that is such a thing. Like, if I say take this pill and you'll immediately start getting stronger in the gym, all of a sudden you're revved up to go, you're excited for the gym, and all of a sudden you're getting PBs. And that's because you had that belief in that pill. And it is really important to understand this, because sometimes not getting an answer is actually beneficial for you, because it's allowing you to actually put it to the test. And I guess it also means that you won't be spending ridiculous amounts of money on certain supplements or certain anything, because all of a sudden you're getting this amazing effect from something that could be expensive or could be a burden in some way that wouldn't have had that effect had you not expected that effect that it was meant to have. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And it's why it depends, or let's just see, are probably the most powerful words that you can hear sometimes. And I guess using that in the whole mindset scheme of things as well, believing that you can is honestly the most important first step to achieving anything.
Yeah.
And one more thing on the topic of stress is, if you do not address to that stress and take a step back, it is only going to hinder you more so when you're given a meal plan or you're given whatever it is to actually progress, because you're going to stay so stuck in your head, you're not actually going to give yourself the time you need to gather your tools, gather your essentials to move forward. So with all of that being said, let's welcome Matt back. And I guess because he's been speaking a lot of macros lately, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, Mr. Protein, when it comes to macros, and also how important protein is not only to a stressed out individual, but to anyone in particular. Not even though, like, it's not just for building muscle. It's not just for those that want to get stronger, or it's not just for those that want to build, I already said build muscle. Like, it's something that every single person needs. And the elderly people actually need it more. that's how important it is, like whether they're weight training or not, which they should be weight training. And I would argue that women actually need it more, especially the ones with higher body fats, because they are more insulin resistant. So it's better to actually feed them up on protein, because it's the biggest fat burning macro, if we want to call it that. So I'll let Matt talk a little bit more about that and lead us into even why carbs are important for stress.
Thank you, Ruby. Thanks for having me back on. Touching back on what you said in the very beginning, the intro, I think that's a very strong line between telling and teaching. And like when you were saying, like when you are going through the process and you're guiding the clients through, and they're not expecting a certain outcome, but you're teaching them about why they are doing certain things, then whatever outcome they come to, they're going to learn from. Whereas if we tell them what to expect, or just tell them to do this without any process of learning, they're never going to be, they're always going to be wanting the handheld and never be able to go out into the big bad world on their own, because they're not going to know all this stuff. They're always going to be like, oh, Ruby, can I do this? Ruby, can I do that? Matt, can I do this? Can I? And it's always going to be, there's never going to be a process of learning in that. So I think it's a really great thing that we do with the clients, is to provide a level of learning and education, as opposed to just telling them what to expect from that. And it makes the whole process of learning and enjoying it much better and easier for them to get to the goals and the results. So talking about proteins, and as you were saying, you are right. As you get older, we're experiencing muscle loss, just a natural process of getting older, which, as we know, as we hit about 40, 45, we are going to experience a lot of that rather quickly. So all the research points to a higher protein diet and a good level of 3 or 4 days a week of about 30 to 45 minutes of resistance training 3 to 4 times a week for elderly, I say older population. We got to be able to maintain that muscle mass as we get on. As we know, once you are starting to lose muscle mass, the risk of other diseases come into play. So keeping proteins nice and high and keeping that lean tissue is going to help us have a better foundation of health. And it's also going to mitigate a lot of stresses that these guys may experience, especially when we're looking at that 40, 50 years plus. These guys and girls are the ones that potentially have a lot of family things going on, or they have businesses, companies to run. They got a lot of stress in their life anyways. So that protein is going to be utilized way more than 21-year-old Sally down the road that just, goes to college every now and again, or does online college now and, goes partying every weekend. Not to say that it's not important, but it's a different level of importance. It's much more important for the older population. So and that goes hand in hand, when we're looking at the stress response and the level of stress that the older population can have. We also need to play a role with the carb intake as well. Yes, carbs aren't necessarily a essential macro, but they are well documented for controlling stress levels. As we know, when stress goes too high, we have high levels of cortisol, we have high levels of adrenaline that come with that, that downregulate a lot of hormonal and physiological responses. The best, cheapest, and wildly available anti-stress drug is carbohydrates. It brings down our cortisol levels, it brings down our adrenaline levels. It has the inverse relationship with those two, with the increase of insulin. It also helps to promote higher dopamine levels, serotonin levels, which helps to then control our sleep better. If we sleep better, we can mitigate more stress levels, and then it just allows us to, progress through all the other stuff. If we are lacking in sleep, creates more stress, creates more insulin resistance. We have to build on everything from a baseline. So we base from a nutritional perspective, proteins, carbohydrates. Then we can look at stress management from a level of sleep, breathing exercises, actually getting rid of some stresses if they're not needed to, because one thing that we wonderful humans love doing is just adding stress to our lives for no particular reason. I don't know why we do that. We just love living in extremes and just either doing way too much, trying to take on too much, not looking after ourselves, looking after way too many things, or trying to be responsible for too many things, and not giving ourselves a break, taking our time and allowing just the simple pleasures in life to be able to live a healthier lifestyle.
So something you did touch on there is especially why protein is so important when we are living a high stress lifestyle. And as we know, our muscle is made out of proteins, meaning if you are not getting enough protein in your diet, your body is going to take from your muscle stores. And when you are stressed out, it is more likely to take from your muscle stores. When your body is not able to actually utilize fuels like carbs, either because you're not giving it enough carbs, or you're doing a ridiculous fad diet, or you've been chronically dieting, your body is going to use the muscle stores. And this is why a lot of people feel like they are actually gaining fat in a deficit, because you are. It's not that you're getting fatter in a deficit. It's that your body has now eaten at the muscle. So you are effectively expending less energy, but you're stressed out. You can eat the extra carbs to try and reduce your stress. But something I'll get Matt to talk into very soon is, once you get to that point where you're insulin resistant, you've been dieting for ages, you can't utilize the carbs properly anymore, you're eating away at your muscle. If you try to use carbs then to bring up your calmness, or to bring up your insulin sensitivity, or to reduce your cortisol, or whatever it is you think it's going to do, it's actually going to do the opposite effect. It's going to add to your body fat stores, because you have not actually addressed the fact that you are still living in a chronic deficit. You're not actually taking the holistic approach of reversing slowly up and of doing the things that you need to do to address the stress management and actually make your body more sensitive to the carbs, which is exercise. And it's actually proven just one bout of exercise can increase your insulin sensitivity in just that one bout. One bout of walking. That's why people say walk before a meal or after a meal to improve your insulin sensitivity, something that I make sure that all my PCOS girls do. So maybe we should dig deeper into why protein is so essential for high stress individuals, and about why having more carbs than our body needs at either end of the spectrum, either being so chronically dieted or being so like having too much body fat, how that can actually then be a negative thing, especially if we don't have enough muscle mass.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up two good points. We have our lean body mass and our fat mass. We have to add up to 100%. There is 100% of us, and we have to add up to 100% somehow. So if we are 100 kilos and 20% body fat, that means we have 20 kilos of fat mass on us. If we want to reduce the weight and we go and we do a massive deficit, we do lots of training and all this kinds of stuff to lose weight, and then we drop down to 90 kilos, you may find that you weigh less, but now you're 25% body fat. And you're like, how did that happen? So now we have this a smaller body, but I've got more fat mass. How does that work? Well, it's exactly what you were saying. You've done too big of a deficit. You're doing too much work. The body is regulating itself because it's thinks you're trying to get rid of it. We still pretty hardwired for two things, which is survival and reproduction. It really doesn't care that we want to be, have 6-pack abs or run a sub 40 10K. It doesn't really matter. It wants to do two things, and that's survive and reproduce. So when you go into this extreme dieting and, you drop carbs, you drop fats, you drop proteins, and you do a bunch of cardio, probably not even resistance training, just a bunch of cardio, because that's the way everybody believes is the best way to drop weight quickly, right? We now weigh less, but we still have more body fat. So we didn't get the results that we wanted. And now we have this metabolic shitstorm of downregulated physiological processes that doesn't allow us to eat the foods that we enjoy, doesn't allow us to sleep well. We've made ourselves more insulin resistant. We can't enjoy the carbs. We can't enjoy anything that we like, because we've got this high stress response, but now more body fat with that. So the second point you made was actually just walking. If we are trying to lose weight in a sustainable fashion and being able to still enjoy a lot of things, just moving your body, walking. Maybe, if we say we walk 10 to 15 minutes before and after every single meal, we're going to get a lot of steps in. We're going to get a lot of movement in. And we don't even have to worry about doing extra fitness. We can just worry about doing some movement, which makes the whole process of being able to enjoy the foods and stress management a lot easier to fit into a lifestyle without having to worry about doing 3 training sessions a day or trying to do 90 minutes, 2 hours of cardio. If you're just walking pre and post dinner or feedings, imagine that you're doing now, if let's say we eat 3 times a day and we're walking for 15 minutes pre and post, that's 90 minutes of walking, which is way more than. It doesn't have to take too much time, right? It's not like, oh man, I have to drive to the gym or I have to go for a walk and, I have to do all these stuff. It just fits into a lifestyle. And if we have families, it also promotes a good lifestyle for the kids and other people within our families and within our reach, within our relationships that we have, But going into the stresses and the reason why protein is so high is, as we said, if we are going into a weight loss diet and we're trying to lose weight, the best thing that we can do is to try to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. The training isn't to burn fat or burn calories. The training is for keeping and retaining that muscle mass, so that when we use the diet and the lifestyle to reshape our bodies and give us the look that we want and the outcome that we want, we're left with this masterpiece that we've been building. Too many people were worried about the training to burn calories or get the results, whereas in a general population sense, it's more about the lifestyle and the factors that play a role in that will give you the results more than the actual training. Training is there to give and sculpt and maintain, tone up, whatever verbiage you want to use within the training, however you want to train. Maybe you like doing circuit training. Maybe you like doing resistance training. Maybe you like doing CrossFit or F45, whatever it may be. It's a way for you to keep a level of fitness and maintain some form of muscle mass, lean body tissue. The other side of it is the lifestyle, the steps as we come to know it, the actual eating behaviors, and the stress management that play a bigger role in getting the results that you want.
We could talk about this forever, because honestly, there is honestly so much just in this topic. And we're going to have to probably make another episode to talk about what we originally wanted to talk about, because the topic is honestly just like the training itself. If you're approaching it with the mindset of, I need to lose weight, I hate how I look, all this restrictive thinking, you're not aligning your real true goals to your habits, because you're seeing it as something you have to do or that you should do, not something you want to do. That means you're not actually attaching it to something that can bring you an outcome that will better your life. And a lot of people go in with that mindset of, I need to just do as much activity as possible, because if I stop now, I'm going to get fat. And then all of a sudden you get so consumed by the process that you sabotage, you start to hate it, start to resent it. And especially when you mention training to burn fat, this can do more harm than good. This is when you will lose weight easily until you don't. But the thing is, you'll lose weight and actually end up with a higher body fat percentage, because you should always train the way that you train to build muscle, because you want to train to build the muscle. You want to train to keep the muscle. If you're training to burn fat, you're going to end up eventually losing that muscle, because you're not training to keep it. You are training to, in your attempts to burn calories, you're training like an idiot, to put it frankly. And you're probably not even fueling that activity. And then you'll start adding in more stuff because you're not getting the results that you want. And you'll probably not even be active throughout the day because you just smashed yourself too hard in the gym. And you actually don't burn that many calories when you're training compared to the rest of the day. Because if you're a total monkey, you will probably be like literally, if you are a total monkey and training 2-3 hours in a day, there's still the other 20 hours, 21 hours of the day where you're probably going to be lying like a log or sleeping on the couch because you feel freaking wrecked from that session. If you're training like a normal person, maybe 45 minutes to 90 minutes in the gym, you have even more hours outside of that, and you need to use them. And not everybody can walk before and after a meal, but you also know that it's either I don't have time or I'm not making it a priority, because you can wake up a little bit earlier in the morning to go for a mental health walk. The way you frame things is important. Like, don't even consider it a chore. Like, make it your time, especially if you're a mom. You don't get a lot of time to yourself. So why don't you make that time in the morning? Why don't you make that time after tea? Go for a walk, or get like a cycle for your house, a little mini treadmill for your house. Put on some music and make that your sanctuary, because you don't get enough time for you. And that is so important, to get the time for you. And stop thinking you can't do things because of the kids. Why not get them involved? Don't you want to be a good role model, for example? Like, get the kids involved, get them seeing that this is family time now. Have more time with the family. You'll foster your relationships. And I guess now, touching back on the carbs, like you mentioned, I want to actually touch on why some people can actually sleep better with carbs before they sleep, or sometimes it keeps them up at night, like where the insulin sensitivity comes into this, where the cortisol comes into this, where the individual comes into this, and how exactly that relates to the stress response. And also how that could be beneficial for someone training fasted in the morning or training first thing in the morning, and just how much more important the nutrition should and could be for someone who's training first thing in the morning without much fuel beforehand.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that, as you are dieting down, the harder you work, the higher the intensity, the more carbs you need. The bigger the stress response is, the harder you work and the higher the intensity of your training and the volume of your training, the more carbohydrates you're going to need. The lower your carbs, the higher the intensity, the more stress response that you're going to have. And then that has a knock-on effect to everything else. I
do just want to say don't just relate this to the gym, because that same thing happens when you're working hard at work, when you're working hard as a mom in the house. The same thing happens. And you don't just add the carbs in and leave everything else as is. This is where you need to have a lower fat approach, so that you aren't having an excess of calories, but still favor the carbs. Because just because you're not smashing yourself in the gym, you need to realize you are still smashing yourself at life.
Yeah. So like you said, it doesn't matter if it's training or life, we work, whatever it may be, the more stress that we have, the higher our intensity in life, the more like on edge that we are, the more beneficial carbohydrates are going to be. not only just from a stress management point, but usually from a body composition standpoint as well, and everything that's related to that. Going into the sleep response, what we tend to find is that people that are overly stressed, overly working, and that are already struggling with sleep, they want to look at all these techniques. They want to look at supplements to help them. And one of the first things that we look at is sleep hygiene. We look at their routine. So do we have an electronic sunset? Do we have a dark, cold room? Do we make sure that our we're shutting down the blue light and all that kind of stuff? Are we doing everything that we can to put us into the right sleep response before we look at supplementing that's going to mask all the underlying things? Are you working on the computer till midnight and then trying to sleep straight away because you've got to get up at 5 a.m. to drive to work, or you got to go to the gym nice and early to get your session in, but you're only getting 4 hours of sleep? You're not feeding yourself before you go to the gym. You're doing a high intensity circuit class fasted on 4 hours of sleep, and then you wonder why you can't sleep again at night, every single night, and everything is getting worse. And you're doing all this work, but your body composition isn't changing. You feel worse. You're getting aches and pains. Progress in the gym is stalling. You can't concentrate. Everything is going wrong. It's taking a step back. We're looking at a lower carbohydrate, probably low fat as well, moderate protein, I guess, maybe. But, for a lot of it, people are just low on everything, and trying to get as much done as possible. Whereas what we need to do is kind of bump up the proteins, bump up the carbs, keep fats at minimal that allows us to enjoy the foods, because fats make food tasty, but also for hormonal responses. And then use those carbohydrates as a way of allowing us to mitigate some of that stress response so that we can sleep. How it does that, insulin and cortisol have a inverse relationship. So as one goes up, the other one goes down, and vice versa. Best way of mitigating some of that stress response through the cortisol and the adrenaline is to use carbohydrates. Carbohydrates boosts up the insulin. With the insulin, it also gives you a boost of dopamine, serotonin, that allows us to go into this rest and digest mode. People may experience it when they, let's say you don't eat for a long period of time, not for any particular reason, but let's say you don't eat and then you feast on, burger and fries or something really carby like a cake or something like that. You get this muffin and then you just hit a wall. You just hit this crash. That's that stress response coming in, or the response from the carbohydrates that's making us sleepy. It's not necessarily a bad thing. What it is telling us, though, is that we can use that to our advantage. So if we're having, something that is going to replenish our glycogen stores, ready to work out in the morning or ready to kickstart the day, we can use something like some rice or some potatoes, something that's going to fill us up and make it satiating rather than donuts and cakes and stuff in the evenings. But we can use these things as a way to make sure the body is fueled for training the next day, but also allow us to downregulate those physiological responses that are making it hard for us to see progress, making it hard for us to sleep and mitigate those stresses.
So much gold in that, because the fact that so many of us in this day in life, and if you're living in Australia right now, and if you're part of the two terror countries, the two terror states that are going through an apocalypse right now, you would know exactly what I mean by we're thrown with a whole washing machine of things out of our control, and we're leaving less and less time for ourselves. And this is where we need to also realize that people want to look like athletes and competitors, yet they don't eat like athletes and competitors. Athletes need to perform. Competitors, when they're actually in their performance season, they eat to perform. They're not chronically dieting the whole year. And unless there's some stupid competitor that literally is probably down regulating all of their hormones, all their own gear and pumping themselves with who knows, then they should not be doing season to season. And if they do, they are seriously fucking themselves up. But back to my point, they are not dieting year round. They are not in season year round. They may appear it because, hey, it's social media. They can do whatever the hell they want on social media. So stop comparing yourself to athletes and competitors. You're not getting paid to live that lifestyle. You're not someone who has the ability to live that lifestyle because you have kids, you have a job, you're trying to actually make money to have a living because it's really freaking hard these days, especially with what's going on. So focus on what actually matters in your lifestyle. But
that is their game. So if we take the approach for an athlete, which is, we have the off season, pre-season, in season, and the recovery phase, we can take that approach to a normal person. Because if we think about the athlete having their games and going through and having to be able to perform well and function well, and they're getting paid for this, then why can't we have that level of thinking for everybody else? Like, you're getting paid to do a job. Okay, maybe some jobs you can just go in and do and you're still going to get your paycheck. But if you really want to do well, why not serve well by providing yourself with a foundation of nutrients that's going to allow you to perform well? We've got to have, let's say we have a high functioning professional that wants to, it's a CEO or something, you own your own company. You can't just be fasting for 7 days a week and expecting gold. We have to perform well to be able to build a business or run a company or just perform well at work. So if we take that same level of thinking and think that this is my playing field and this is the game that I'm going to conquer, we're going to win this. And then every day win, not just a win every now and again, but we're going to win the day. How can I do that from a baseline level? What can I do to help myself from a nutritional standpoint, from a recovery standpoint? What can I do to make every day a win? Because if you're going into the game tired and frustrated and achy and all this sorts of stuff, you're not going to win. Eventually, we're going to lose. And we're going to have to take more time off than we should do or that we need to. So if we can take that level of thinking and think that, okay, what do I need for my role or my job or my performance? Let's, instead of thinking like, you said there, maybe you're a mom with kids, right? That is your playing field. That is your game, your sport. You are a mom, and whatever anybody believes, it is a difficult job and a difficult role to manage a family and manage kids and do all this stuff. You're on your feet all the time. You've got so many things to think about. Maybe you're a mom that goes to work as well as running a family. You have to perform well, and you have to give yourself the winning advantage by looking after yourself from a nutritional, lifestyle, and habit approach. You can't be running around just looking after everybody else without that self-care and attention. Right.
I love that. Oh, if you could see my face right now, you should just see how it just lit up listening to Bolts talk about that, because that's the thing. Your life is a playing field. Stop standing on the sidelines and start playing. Start fueling yourself for the game. And you're not just fueling yourself to train in the gym. You're not just eating to lose weight. You have a lifestyle to support. And if you do not support that lifestyle, you're going to end up with this body that's trying to survive. You're going to end up eating freaking 1,300 calories and wondering why you're not losing any weight, because you just starved yourself for God knows how long, not actually fueling your lifestyle for that whole period of time. Your body has now adapted. Your systems have now down-regulated. And the longer that you've been doing that for, the longer it's going to take to get you out of that mess. And, stop thinking of the gym as the playing field, because it is not. That is something that you are using to enhance your life. And in enhancing your life, you are also enhancing your body. And this is why I say stop focusing on the outcome. Focus on the process. what is training bringing you? It's bringing you a stronger body. It's building you the muscles that are going to make you look really great, but that's the outcome. The input is doing the reps, doing the sets. People don't push themselves hard enough. Focus on getting your intensity up in the gym. If it says do 15 reps and you're stopping short at 10 and it's something like a lat pull down machine or a leg press, you can pause and go again. You don't just stop at 12, like actually push out the 15. Get yourself to be comfortable with the discomfort, because your body is going to run away from that discomfort every single time if you're so used to cutting your set short. And what, like, that mentality leads into the rest of your life as well. Are you a quitter there? Well, you'll be a quitter in other things as well. But that's all up to you. Like, it's all within your control. And like Matt said, if you're so stressed out, you're run down, you're not fueling yourself enough, the last thing you want to do as a busy mom is be like, oh, I'll just chuck in this HIIT session here. I'll just do this group class there. No, less is more. Yeah. Stick to your structured weight training routine, because you're doing enough crazy shit in your life. You don't want to add another form of stress. Now, talking about all of this as carbs, protein, essential fats that you need, which is not coconut oil, because that's a shit fat. You want to talk about the healthy fats like your olive oils. If you want to use olive oil, which I highly recommend you do not use oils, especially if you're a female, because that's going to take up a chunk of your calories and then you're going to be left hungry, which is why I usually say do not use oil at all. But when you want to use like the spray oil, go for olive oil. For everything else, go for nuts, go for seeds. If you love peanut butter, add that in. Go for eggs. It's okay to have a little bit of dairy fat as well in forms of cheese, because you're going to get some calcium with that. Anyway, back to our point, you don't eat protein, you don't eat carbs, you don't eat calories, you eat food. And now this is where the most important thing comes in: nutrients, especially when it comes to stress, because we all know stress depletes our B vitamins, it depletes our selenium, it depletes our iodine. What are they important for? Our thyroid. It depletes our magnesium. What's that important for? I'm sure Matt will list a whole bloody list of things about magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, and vitamin D, which we also lose. So talking about nutrients and this absurd, this little thing about let's just add in this bar because it's under 100 calories. Oh, look, we can fit in this protein ice cream, this protein bar. Eat real food, people. This is where it becomes even more important. Why is this so important, Matt?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, eating real food is, the number one factor. We can do a lot just by eating real food. I think we also need to, at some point we need to look at, what is applicable to people, but is it applicable to always eat real food? Is there times where certain things can be easier for people, but to be able to get all of their food in that they need to? But on the whole, eating real foods plays a crucial role in the foundation of health. And for most of us, being able to look good, perform well, and just win at life, that foundation of health is the most important thing. Regardless of whatever we may want to achieve in the gym, whatever we want to achieve outside, we've got to be able to fuel that. And if we are just focusing on the macros or the calories, we may be missing out on a lot of good, solid nutrients. And the nutrients that are going to come from our whole foods, our whole food fats, fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, and those animal proteins that we're fixating on. Those are the ones that are going to give us the most bang for the buck. Starchy carbohydrates, whole grains, those things, they provide a host of what I call wealth for health. We have all the B vitamins that we have in there. And we have the animal proteins as well give us a bunch of B vitamins that we need for carbohydrate metabolism. So if we're missing out on a bunch of these vitamins and minerals, it doesn't matter about the macros per se, because we're not allowing the cofactors in to be able to do what we're doing. So we're missing out on the essential nutrients that we get because we're not taking in these vitamins and minerals. As a whole, I would say that it's great for people to take in like a multivitamin to help with that. But if we get a variety of whole foods, lean proteins, whole food fats, a mixture, like, you know, for me, I'm an advocate of getting in a host of fats, just making sure that we are aware of the quantities.
So this ends part 1 of the most amazing chat with Bolts. So if you liked it, if you could share it to anyone that you think it will it will help, because we tried to keep it really basic so that it could help anyone who's really wanting to become their best self, win at life, and really stop falling for all the bullshit, wasting money, wasting time, wasting energy, and wasting emotions, and feeling like a failure over something that isn't their fault. So yeah, and if you share it in your stories, tag me. I would love to see what you liked about it and so forth. Thank you.